This one a little bit different. I'm going to break it up into smaller pieces because this piece is like a summary assignment to make sure you've been getting all your basic skills for a spreadsheet. So this is kind of the end of all these basic skill lessons. And the last thing I really want to do with you here is generating random data. Sometimes you just want to kind of see what would happen, maybe some kind of probability situation, or making a game, and you just want to come up with random information. A lot of games come up with they use random numbers to just kind of play it out. So I'm going to switch to the example page here, and this first part runs through it. Now you don't really have to do anything. You don't have to answer any of these questions on this part where it says examples. This is kind of a guided thing to do in class together, which we can't do, of course, this year. So that's just summarizing what I'm going to do. But I want to create some random numbers. And first up, I want to create some random number from 0 to 100. So I'm going to type in equals random. And before I even get very far, there's a lot of options that come up. First up, it says rand, and it says a number between 0 inclusive and 1 exclusive. So that language means you would have a number from 0 to 0.9999, as many nines as you could ever imagine, just not quite to 1. Okay, which is probably okay, but I want a number from 0 to 100, so I don't know if that's the formula I want to use. All right, rank's probably not going to be it. All right, let me come down here. We got rand between. That says random integer between two values, inclusive. All right, so that language means integer. Those are numbers you can count by, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they include negatives that you can count by, like -1, -2, -3. When I say count by, that does not include fractions and decimals. That's the things we're not talking about with integers, which sounds pretty good because 0 to 100, that would cover it. Those are countable numbers. Inclusive means whatever minimum value I give it, whatever maximum value I give it, it could include those two numbers. So exclusive would mean, like, if I put 0 to 100, it would only give me numbers from 1 to 99. Inclusive means it would give me numbers between 0 and 100, which is what I want. So I'm going to choose that one. And I didn't talk much about the formatting here. So let's look at the formatting. You have your low number, comma, your high number. That's the only two things we got to worry about. So I want a number from 0 to 100, and that's it, 0, comma, 100. And there you go. And I can drag this down as far as I want. I can, I've done some programs where I've literally done 10,000 random numbers, and it can do that almost instantly. So it's kind of nice. All right, now 1 to 1,000. Now, if we were in class right now, I would say, all right, your turn. Let's see if you can handle this. So I'll just run through it more time with you. So I just started typing random, and by the time I got to RA, it came up all this stuff. So random between 1, comma, 1,000, and there we go. I can drag that down for a ways too. And there we go. Sometimes it repeats. Sometimes well, you get the idea. I mean, it could be anything. But it's not like once a number comes up, it's never going to have it again. It basically uses the clock inside the computer, if you want to get technical about it. All right, the last thing here's got money. This one's different because it's got some decimals. So when I do the equals random between, that's where that word integer comes in. These, excuse me, these are countable numbers. That doesn't include decimals. Well, I need a decimal in this case. I need something between $0 and $100. Okay. So there's a couple ways we can go about it, and I'm going to do it both ways. We can do something with random, or we could do something with random between. We're going to have to use one of the two. That's really all we have to go with. If you do rand, you got to pick something between 0 and 1. That's it. That's your limit. If you do random between, you can pick your two values, but we'll have to do something to make it a decimal. So let me kind of ask you about that for a second. So what if I had, here's the number 652. All right. What would I do with 652 to turn it into 6.52? So think about that. What would I do with 652 to make it 6.52? All right. And what I can do with that is divide it by 100, and that would give me 6.52. Okay. Some of y'all might have noticed that the numbers update every time I change something. That's something I'll talk about in a second. I can, if I want to make new numbers for whatever reason, which you will on the next page, if I just type a space and hit enter, and then type, that's a really quick, easy way to not change your sheet, but to get new numbers. But anyway, that was a side note. So if I want to get this from $0 to $100 with decimals, so I could say ran between 0 would be at the bottom. Now, if I'm going to divide by 100 and end up with $100, let's see, what would that look like as an integer number? In other words, if I move that decimal 2 places, that would be 1 and 4 zeros, which is 10,000. Okay. Now we'll hit enter, but this isn't right yet. Okay, so that's too big. But if I took 2 decimal places off, so all I gotta do is come back to the formula and do divided by 100, and that works. Okay, so I just drug it down to test it and make sure it's working, but it is. Okay, so that'll definitely work. Here's the other way to do it. So equals random, and I'm going to go with this option, just equals rand. Now, this is kind of interesting. We don't. If you pull up the question mark thing that shows you how to use it, there's no input. It's just you just close the parenthesis. That's it. That's all you can do, because it's just going to generate a random number, and that's it. All right. I don't know how many decimal places it uses, but it's a lot. So let me get that back up here. Returns a random number between 0 and 1. Okay, so including 0, but anything less than 1. So I technically would never get 100, which is probably okay, but what could I do with a number between 0 and 1 to make it between 0 and $100? All right. Well, let's see. If I multiply this by 10, that would be, well, let's pick one of these. If I multiply this by 10, it'd be $7.50. If I multiply by 100, it would be $75. So we could probably do that. We could probably take this and multiply by 100, and that would work. Okay. So that's the other way to do it. Pick a random number, multiply that random number by 100. That would do it. Okay. So this one's just there to make you think a little bit. The other two, make sure you understand the formula. I'm going to leave this on the example page for you so you can see these formulas and see what I did.